Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of Ramakrishna, the Great Master, written by Shardanandaji. We will start the discussion with a prayer. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. We were taking up the introduction portion. I think we have completed the introduction portion. So we have to now directly enter into the life of Sri Ramakrishna. In the last class, we have seen the mention of Bhavamukha. Whenever Haladari used to criticize Ramakrishna, tell him that you are Ishtadevata, Kali, Mother Kali is a Tamasi goddess, and many other situations, when he used to create doubt, he was an expert in the scriptures. Though he was well versed in the scriptures, his application of the scriptures was not right. So he used to confuse Sri Ramakrishna during that period of sadhana. And whenever there was some confusion, Ramakrishna used to be consoled by Divine Mother. He used to run just like a small child. Whenever the small child has any problem, the first thing the child will ask is, or remember, is the mother. So, likewise, now Ramakrishna started all his sadhana seeing the Parabrahma or God as mother. So, whatever would be the problem, he used to run to mother to get any clarification. So, now 3 times he got the clarification when he was in that state of confusion. Divine Mother commanded him through different ways to tell him, my child, be in Bhavamukha. My child, be in Bhavamukha. So this is a very new concept. We don't find it in any other place. This is a very new concept where Sri Ramakrishna got this command. So what is this Bhavamukha? As many people have discussed, and we also come to know, it is the threshold, to sit on the threshold. You know that in the houses earlier there would be some walls. The roof would not be touching the roof, and if you keep a lamp on the wall, it would illumine both the sides of the room. So that place would be called as the threshold of the room. So if you keep a lamp there on that wall, we can imagine that light would be spreading to both the sides of the room. So likewise, we see here the awakening state in which we are all in. And the higher state is the Turiya state, or what you call the Turiya or the superconscious state, where Ramakrishna used to go to the Samadhi and have the vision, different visions, the Bhava Samadhi, and so many other aspects, the superconscious state. So now Ramakrishna could easily go by his sadhana. Even in the beginning of the sadhana itself, he had that special energy in his mind and body by which he could go to that plane of consciousness, the Turiya, the superconscious state, very easily. So now, when he approached Divine Mother, every time telling that, oh Mother, Haladhara told like this, and I had the confusion like this, then immediately Mother would console him, telling that, my child, be in Bhavamukha. So we have to understand what this Bhavamukha is. As I told you, it is the threshold of both the superconscious state and the waking state which we are in. So Ramakrishna was commanded by Mother to be in that state where at a time he could see both the superconscious state And also, just like the lamp which could give light to both the superconscious, to the other side of the room and this side of the room, likewise, Divine Mother is commanding for him to stay in that state. What is that? Bhava Mukha, whereby he could, whenever, see the superconscious, and at also the same time he could see the waking state. That was the command. So three times Divine Mother giving him in different ways, telling him, stay in Bhavamukha, stay in Bhavamukha. So now you can just imagine, you can have the mm, imagination of Ganesha. Now you can see, we all think what happened to Ganesha. Ganesha is the elephant head and the human body. So the elephant head represents the superconscious state. The human body represents this waking state in which we are in. So Ganesha was a bridge between the superconscious state, that is Shiva, Parvati, Kailasa, and the higher state of superconscious state, and this human state. He was a bridge. So he could easily go to that state or come back to this state. So that has been indicated by the elephant head, which represents the superconscious state, and the human body to show the waking state. So is a bridge between that. So whoever are votaries who pray to Ganesha, they could easily get access to the superconscious state. And at the same time, you can see the Lord is always in the lower state too, in this human state too, to help the people. So likewise, Ramakrishna was now in that state of whenever he used to get some confusion about the authority of the scriptures or his visions, or Haladari confused many times telling about his own Ishtadevata. So now, when Divine Mother commanded him to be in that state, the Bhava Mukha, the threshold of spiritual life, where you can cross over to the subconscious state and have the experience, and then you can also come back easily whenever you want to this state of the human existence. So Ramakrishna was asked to stay in that Bhava Mukha. So now you might have got a little understanding, because it's a very high subject. You have to go again and again, think of it, understand it, then you will get an inkling of it. But before that, I have given just an introduction of what Bhavamukha is. So whenever opportunity arises, I will again take up that matter and discuss it more. Now we shall enter the proper life of Sri Ramakrishna. So now we saw the incidents which happened in the house of Surendranath Mitra, when Surendranath wanted to celebrate Durga Puja with an idol in a big way. All his family members asked him not to, because there was some mishaps earlier. So now, because of the command of Master, he was a rich man. He could start that Divine Mother worship. What happened there? Ramakrishna or Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling about the incident when when the master is suffering from this cancer and he can't move about anywhere. So at that time, though he was staying here, there Surendranath Mitra in his house, he was feeling very sad and morose because Ramakrishna would not come to that place. Then what happened then? The master said, now said to the devotees, he was in Dakshineshwar, about his samadhi. Ramakrishna was in that high state of yoga, the samadhi, Nirvikalpa samadhi or Bhava samadhi. Now Ramakrishna started explaining exactly at the Sandhi Puja and during the Durga Puja, he went to the samadhi. Then when he came back, he started explaining to the devotees about his samadhi. I saw that there opened a luminous path from here to Surendra's house. I saw further that, attracted by Surendra's devotion, the mother had appeared in the image, and that rays of light were coming out from her third eye. I also saw that rows of lamps were lighted in the front veranda, and Surendra was sitting and weeping piteously in the courtyard in front of the mother. You will go to his house now. He will feel much comforted to see you, all including Narendranath. Narendranath was very scientific, and he would not just simply believe whatever and whoever would tell. He would himself find out. He used to analyze. He used to do research scientifically, logically, and then only come to the conclusion. Even if Ramakrishna would tell something, he would not just believe. He was well versed in all departments in different fields of science, arts, and commerce, and everything. He was well educated. So he used to, first of all, test everything and then believe in it. He would not just somebody because his guru Ramakrishna told something, he would believe. He would test and test and test and then believe it. So now, all including Narendranath, then saluted the master and went to Surendra's place. They questioned him and came to know that rows of lamps were actually lighted in that veranda. And Surendranath told, unable to check the surge of emotion, Surendra sat in the courtyard before the image and wept loudly like a boy, crying, Mother, Mother, for about an hour at the time of the master's samadhi. Exactly everything corroborated. So everything was clear, everything was right to the inch. So finding the vision during the master's samadhi correspond to the external events in every detail. The devotees were filled with joy and amazement. At one time, during the first 4 years of the sadhana, Rani Rasamani and Mathur Babu, her son-in-law, thought that the master's perfect continence, brahmacharya. So we get that in the yoga, Ashtanga yoga, the 8 limbs of the yoga. The first limb is the yama, niyama. In that first, this thing we get this ahimsa, satya, asteya, aparigraha, brahmacharya. These are all the different aspects of yama, the first step. That is the moral life, morality. So before becoming a spiritual man, you should be a gentleman. That's why our scriptures, especially yoga, teaches us these are the basic factor when you enter into the spiritual life. So ahimsa, non-violence, that you should be very kind. You should be very nicely treating all the other human beings, not only the human beings, but also all the animals, any living being. So ahimsa, you should not hurt anybody in your thought, word, and deed. And Swami Vivekananda explains about ahimsa in a very better way, telling that it is the real test of ahimsa is not only just giving up meat eating and other things. We should not limit. That is also one of the aspect. But what is the real test of ahimsa? The real test of ahimsa is absence, total absence of jealousy. The real test of ahimsa is total absence of jealousy. So, like that, there are these moral, ethical principles, the basic principles, the foundation on which yoga is to be built up. It should be strong. So, in that, we see ahimsa, satya, that is telling the truth, being truthful always. Then, aparigraha, you should not crave for gifts. You should never take any gifts at any conditions so that you'll be influenced by the giver of the gift. That's why you should do the hard working and get anything for you. You should not aspire. You see, from the childhood, children are taught to what you call hanker for gifts. If anybody gives the gift, you'll be very happy. If you don't get the gift, if somebody doesn't give you the gift, you'll be upset. So in that way, we see the parents teach and present day circumstances also in the Western atmosphere. You are forced to think in that way that everybody coming to you should give you a gift. So these are the things, but you should know that gifts will not help you, rather hamper you in spiritual life. So you should not take gifts. It's called aparigraha yoga. That is a basic practice because whenever anybody gives you the gift, that is his hard work or whatever, in whichever way he might have earned it. So then you have to share. When you take the gift from anybody, you have to share his sins or you have to give your precious punya, merit. So there is nothing called free be or free gift. So whether in the case of food, whether in case of any material, we have to use the simplest and least material of this uh, earth, because whatever luxury, whatever you use it more, you are not using somebody else's thing, but you are using it from the stock of your punya. So you have to use it judiciously. Simply because somebody has given you free, you go on using it, then you are losing your punya. That's why aparigraha is very, very important moral standard. So you should be teaching our children that you should not take any gifts. You should just base your luxury or anything on your hard work. So you should not aspire for gifts, which is not so good. Okay, for the social life, yep, it may be necessary. That's why in India we see when you get any gift, they will immediately think of returning it back in a different way to help others. So there is nothing called freebie. So the only free thing you get is, they tell, I have heard it the saying in English, the only free thing you can get, real free thing, is the cheese in the mouse trap. You know, in the mouse trap, they will keep the cheese. That is the only free food which the rat can get. Do you know why? What happens if it rushes after that free cheese? Then the bone, the rat bone will shut down, the rat trap will shut, and it will be locked for death. So it will die, it had to die. So it will be locked, it will be in bondage. So if you, there you can see the only free cheese you can get in this world is the cheese in the rat trap. Likewise, whatever free thing you take, which you have not worked hard, whether usurping somebody else's property, taking the money by force, or when they give, is you are now getting yourself into the trap, the debt trap. So at the higher standard, at the moral standard, you will be in the debt, rina. It is called rin. So it will be given, taken away from your stock of punya. Don't know how much of punya we have committed, because most of the time we'll be troubling others and it will be all papa which will be having very less punya. So if you go in for freebies, accepting gifts, then what is going to happen? Then you have to share with your punya. So like that, these are the moral standards. So aparigraha, asteya, non-stealing. So you should not even have this attitude of stealing, taking away somebody else's thing, even in thought, let alone in action, and even in words, kaya, vacha, manasa. So manasa, even at the level of thoughts, you should not aspire for somebody else's things. Krishna goes to the extent of telling in Bhagavad Gita that even whatever hard earned money, with whatever hard earned money, you have gained so much of wealth and you have started using it. And you have cooked food. If you eat that food or if you enjoy that thing which you have got by your hard work without sharing with others, Krishna is telling, I call him a thief. Stena evacha. So Krishna tells, even after doing the hard work, you have to share with the poor people, share with the others who do not have. So that is the moral standard Shri Krishna has kept in the Bhagavad Gita. And what will happen if you start stealing, aspiring for others' things? So that is non-stealing. It is called asteya. In that, we see very, very important aspect is in that moral standard is brahmacharya, continence, to keep your mind pure. So the reduce the animal tendency of having impure thoughts. Whether if I'm a male, I should not have impure thought towards the other sex, or if I'm a female, I should not have the same thing. So only in the family, the wife and husband, for the sake of progeny, something little may be there. But on the contrary, they tell Tulsidas, all other great saints, you should never think of other women or men other than your spouse with the bad intention. So that is the standard, high standard, even for the householders. But in spiritual life, when you're going in spiritual life, so pure thought is very, very important. So that is called brahmacharya, brahmani charati. You should mind, your mind should be always flowing in God. It should not go to any other things like these things, the sensual things, the sense, the animal tendencies, the animal thoughts, the animal feelings should not lower your mind, your plane of existence, your plane of consciousness to that level. So that is called continence or brahmacharya. So the real meaning of brahmacharya is brahmani charati. Charati, charana means to flow. You should be going in that. So brahmani means in God only. The mind should be always immersed and it should be flowing in God. Purity, pure thought. So that is brahmacharya. Brahmani charati iti brahmacharya. So now Ramakrishna, now he has gone so much forward in spiritual life. Then you can imagine the basics, the yama, all these things, ahimsa, and all other aspect is in perfection. The brahmacharya also is in perfection. So you know that just like Ganesha, Ramakrishna had this highest ideal from the childhood of seeing his own mother, his own biological mother, and the divine mother in all the female beings. He couldn't see anything else other than that. He could see only God and God alone. Remember going back when Haladari threatened Ramakrishna, telling that if you break all the rules of this Brahmanya, the Brahmana life you have got, you are born in the high caste and you are not following it. You are just doing all the cleaning of the place where the lower caste people have taken food. And also you remove your Janevu, that is Yagnopavita, the sacred thread, while you're sitting in meditation. And also you go and clean the abominable places where the lower caste people have dirtied the place, seeing the Lord in them. So you are breaking all the caste rules. So I will see how your children will be married in future. So Haladari threatened Ramakrishna. What was the reply of Sri Ramakrishna? So you read all the scriptures, and what does the scriptures tell? Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. You tell this God alone is true, the highest dictum of Vedanta, and all else is untrue, falsehood. And then do you think I will have a family and have children when I know this is false? When the highest dictum is this world is false, do you think I will have the family? That means you have to think that this world is true. See truth in the, instead of seeing God in the body of the other person, other sex, you will be seeing something else, your sense object. So the one of the great a lady saint in India, Akka Devi, she used to tell that for the male, the Maya will take the form of female and torture him. And from the for the female, the Maya, this false world will take the form of the male and put him to trouble. That's what Akka Devi used to tell. So Maya will come to you in the form of sense enjoyments and trouble you. So it will not allow you to see God. See, you know, all this world is nothing but aspect of God, manifestation of God. Since we have the desire, we convert, we forcibly see the material objects in this God and then want to enjoy it. So we forcibly turn this God into this thing of enjoyment. So here Ramakrishna is seeing even every aspect of enjoyments and sense objects, God only. In all the female beings, he used to see his own biological mother, his own divine mother. So that is the attitude of purity, seeing God in everything, seeing God in every sense object, everything of the world. So that is the highest state of brahmacharya, brahmani charati. So he told, do you think I will have the family and have children and feel for the sense enjoyment? So make my mind impure? No. When I know the truth of the Vedanta is Brahma Satya, Jagan Mithya, God alone is true. How can I keep my mind in the worldly things? I can't see. I can see only God in everything. So that was the attitude of Sri Ramakrishna. That was the highest expression of brahmacharya continence in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. He was so pure, so perfect. So now, at one time, during the first 4 years of sadhana, Rani Rasamani and Mathur Babu, her son in law, thought they were observing keenly the life. Why now you can't do the puja of Kali? Because of his mind always constantly flowing towards God. And he was acting so peculiarly. Means he was not acting normally, just like all the people go around in this world and be immersed in the joys of the world. He's not living like everybody else. So, what is the reason? What has happened to him? So, maybe the reason is that intense continence, intense brahmacharya, maybe making do that. So, what shall we do now? Master's perfect continence was responsible for what? For what they considered. You should note the word here by used by Shardanandaji. They considered to be his mental derangement. It was apparent they were thinking. That's all. It was their imagination. But the reason was something different. His mind was constantly flowing towards God. So it was not of the earthly plane. So the common people would think, oh, something has happened because it is not normal. So the continence, the brahmacharya, the pure attitude of the mind may be the reason, perfect continence. Imagining, so it's all wild imagination. Imagining that he might regain his health if his continence were broken. They, with the best of intention, see, now if there is any problem in the household, what will be the first thing? If the boy is going wayward, if their child or girl or boy, their children is not behaving properly in the society, they are trying to go here and there instead of the studies or getting the work. The first thing the parents will think is, oh, marry him off, then everything will be all right. So that is the way the worldly people are made to think. Yeah, that is the worldly solution. So likewise, the parents will be doing that with the best of their intention, whether it may be wrong or right, because that is the way they have been trained. So likewise here, Rani Rasmani and Mathur Babu thought that all the problem of Ramakrishna, he can't do the puja properly and be his normal state. They thought that was the reason. So if we break that continence, brahmacharya, maybe everything will be all right. So with the best of intention, they had no bad intention of troubling the life of Sri Ramakrishna. So he might regain health. So all these behavior, he was not behaving properly like a normal person. So they thought, imagining that he might regain his health if his continence were broken, they, with the best of intentions, tried to tempt him some different prostitutes. So Lakshmi Bai and some other beautiful harlots, with their amorous gestures, first at Dakshineshwar and afterwards in the house of Mechua Bazaar in Calcutta. 2 times Mathur Babu tried to tempt Sri Ramakrishna in this way and bring him down from this brahmacharya with the help of those harlots, beautiful harlots with their amorous gestures, especially with this woman called Lakshmi Bai. The master used to say that he saw the divine mother even in those prostitutes, even in those women who had sold their body for money. So even in such low character, lowly thinking woman to Ramakrishna is telling, the master used to say that I saw the divine mother in those women. And when those that Lakshmi Bai and other harlots, beautiful harlots, through their amorous gestures, wanted to tempt Sri Ramakrishna, so Ramakrishna saw only divine mother in them. And repeating, mother, 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 a few times, he lost the outer consciousness. So now you can see what is the extent of purity of mind of Sri Ramakrishna. You can just imagine even in the worst of the women, the prostitutes, he couldn't see anything else bad, impure. So in everything, even the worst of the things would remind him of Divine Mother. Such was the purity of Sri Ramakrishna's mind that anything which would pull down the mind of an ordinary person to the lower plane of thinking, which would be very dangerous for any other ordinary person. So for Ramakrishna, that same thing would remind him of God. It's like in Ishavasya Upanishad, one of the Upanishad, the rishis tell, Isha avasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyan jagatatena tyaktena bhujita ma kaschid. Just I forget that particular this thing. Let me now go through that. Now, the important thing is you have to cover all this word with God. Isha avasyam idam sarvam. Whatever this word is, you have to cover it up with God and see God in everything. That is the reality. And Ramakrishna's pure mind would see only the Lord and Lord alone in everything and nothing else. So now, another aspect you see in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells, while he's describing the aspect of perfect man. Yesterday, in the Shri Krishna's celebration for the Krishna Janmashtami, we are now started from 4th in the evening to meditate and think of Lord Krishna. We are reading the Bhagavatam and other different stories of Shri Krishna. We are coming to know the different nature, qualities of Lord Krishna. And also we are chanting Bhagavad Gita. In that Bhagavad Gita, yesterday the Gita verses which was repeated was Sthita Prajna Lakshana. There, Lord Krishna, in the second chapter, the 58th verse, it tells, while describing about the features, the natures, the characteristic feature of a man of perfection who has realized God, who has seen the highest supreme, what will be his nature? He tells, Yada samharate chayam kurmongani va sarvashaha indriyani indriyartebhyaha tasya prajna pratishtita. When also, like the tortoise, drawing its limb, one can completely withdraw the senses from their sense objects. His or her wisdom becomes steady. So when you can withdraw your senses from the sense object, from the external worlds, like the tortoise, when it gets any danger, it pulls off its organs, 5 organs, just like the 5 sense organs inside. So then the person, that man or woman, has attained the state of perfection, steady wisdom, that is Sthita Prajna. Swami Vivekananda, while explaining that verse of Shri Krishna, tells us the tortoise can draw in its limbs, and if you even strike that tortoise, not one foot will come out. Even so, the sage can draw. The saint can draw his mind and indriyas, all his sense organs inside, and nothing can force them out. Nothing can shake him. No temptation or anything. Let the whole universe stumble about him. It does not make even one single ripple in his mind. He would not be disturbed in any way. As the tortoise tucks its feet and head inside the shell, and you may kill it and break it into pieces, and yet it will not come out. Even so, the character of a man of perfect wisdom, perfection, a perfect man. So the character of that man who has control over his motives and organs is unchangeably established. He controls his own inner forces and nothing can draw them out against his will. So such superior will, nothing can tempt him. By this continuous reflex of good thoughts, good impression, continuously thinking of good reflexes and good thoughts, that is brahmacharya. Always living in God. Always keeping your mind in pure thought, that is God. Good impression moving over the surface of the mind, the tendency for doing good becomes strong. And as a result, we feel able to control the indriyas the sense organs, the nerve centers, and everything. So that is what Lord Krishna is telling, giving the example of the tortoise. So here Ramakrishna is also corroborating the statement of Krishna, Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. He's telling whenever such thing would happen, his mind would be tempted. People would try to tempt him. Then see, Ramakrishna is himself telling his sex organs became contracted and entered completely into his body like the limb of a tortoise. There arose, we were told, a feeling of maternal affection in the hearts of those fallen women. Not only his mind was so perfectly controlled, he would not allow that mind to get tempted by anything external, but at the same time, such was his character, such was his intensity of purity in his mind, that it would arise, it would give rise to the feeling, the pure feeling in the other people who were of lower mind, impure thought, impure mind, who are filled with impure thoughts. Even in them, the company of this great soul would rouse pure thoughts. You should imagine, not only within himself, he could withdraw his senses. It was so intense in Ramakrishna. He's telling himself, Ramakrishna is telling, when such things would happen, when people would to tempt him like that, he used to just see Divine Mother in all those fallen women, the prostitute, the harlots. Then at that time, when he used to see Divine Mother in all those women, what would happen within? So his mind would get, his indriyas would go inside to the Parabrahma who is within the heart, the Atmaswarupa within himself. So at that time, how would the physical body react? His sex organs became contracted and entered completely into his body like the limb of a tortoise. Whatever Lord Krishna is told in the Bhagavad Gita, you can see that is happening in the perfect man, Sri Ramakrishna. So Ramakrishna got this avatara, we are telling again and again. He came down to this earth to show the truth of our scriptures, to prove that all these scriptural statements of the great souls are true. So whatever now physically Lord Krishna is telling, just like a tortoise, and Master is telling the same thing would happen. So into the body like the limb of a tortoise, there arose, we were told, a feeling of maternal affection. The other woman, the fallen woman, who are trying to tempt Ramakrishna to the lower his mind down, in them too, the maternal affection, the motherly feeling, because after all they are women, and in them too, in their heart too, the Lord exists. They are the veritable aspects of Divine Mother. It is because, see, there is a saying, when you have a need, then the world will supply you with whatever you want. Supply, need and supply chain. So when you have the desire, so this same world will look to you as the sense object. So it is because of the desire. But Ramakrishna's mind was so pure that even in the fallen woman, in the prostitutes, it would arouse the feeling of maternal love, the affection. There arose, we were told, a feeling of maternal affection in the hearts of those fallen women, and they were charmed. They were charmed by the childlike behavior of the Master, thinking that they had committed a great sin by trying to tempt him to break his continence. They begged his pardon with tears in their eyes, saluted him again and again, and bade him goodbye with apprehensive minds. And now I always remember in the men or women who are gone down in character, who are fallen. So many people will ask me, is there any hope? Is there any chance to revive them? Is there any chance to bring them back? Do you think there is hope, Swamiji? Many times I've been questioned. Then I tell them, They are not hopeless, but they are hoped less. They are not useless, they are used less. The only, yeah, it's very, very difficult, but the only saving factor is it is God, it is Atma Swarupa, the consciousness which is present in them too. That is the saving factor. With faith in that saving factor, the Atma Swarupa God who is staying even in a demon, even in a fallen person, even in a man of bad character, even in the worst of the sinners, it is the Lord who is present. That is the only saving factor. So can't you hope to change them? You can see what is happening here. So just that pure nature of Sri Ramakrishna was brought about, just his presence has brought about a change in the nature of those fallen women, the harlots, the prostitutes. In their minds too, the attitude of the mother, the feeling of pure feeling of mother has arisen. So it is based purely upon your bad thoughts, impure thought, that you will see the bad things in the world. The world is not bad in itself. The world is neither good nor bad. It becomes bad or good according to your state of mind. According to your desire, the external world will become good or bad. So in itself, this world is neither good nor bad. So when you blame somebody for the impurity or the wrong thing, know for certain, until that impurity is not there in your mind, you can't see that impurity outside. That's why Mother Sharda Devi used to always tell, don't find fault in others. My child, if you want to find fault with your own self. Nobody is a stranger. The whole world is yours. This is the last teaching of Mother Sharda Devi. My child, if you want peace of mind, don't find fault in others. So it is our impurity which is making us to see the impure thing of the world. But in the initial stages, to protect us, we have to keep away from such people. Just like Sri Ramakrishna used to tell, yes, Narayana is present in the tiger or the lion too, in all the wild animals too. So since Narayana is everybody, can you go and embrace the wild animal, the tiger or the lion, saying Narayana in it? No. So likewise, Narayana, the Lord, is present in the bad and the fallen people too. So you can't go and embrace them. So do namaskar from far off. See Narayana in them, and from far away itself, you can do the pranam. Don't go near. So we have to keep ourselves in the initial stages, just like the sapling. In the initial stages, the plant, the small sapling has to be protected by the fence or hedging it. So likewise, we have to protect ourselves from the external world which can trample us. But that should not be the license for us to see bad things and bad things alone in everybody, only the wrong things. So our nature should be to see, just like Ramakrishna, good things and God alone in everything. So if you superimpose God in everything, then that is the thing that is called pure thought, pure mind. So here, even the opposite party, whom we call the worst and the fallen people, in them too, there arose, we were told, a feeling of maternal affection, the motherly feeling, in the heart of those fallen women too. And they were charmed by the childlike behavior of the master, thinking that they had committed a great sin by trying to tempt him to break his continence, brahmacharya. They begged his pardon. They fell at his feet and begged his pardon, and tears in their eyes saluted him again and again, and bade him goodbye with apprehensive minds. They started feeling, we have come to this bad world and doing this bad work due to the desire for money and enjoyment. So we are already taken to the life of sin. And now, if we sin by tempting such a great man who is so pure, then already we are committing so much of sinful things. What would be the intensity of the sin if we tempt or do harm to this such a pure soul? So they felt very, very bad. They begged his pardon. with tears in their eyes, saluted him again and again, and bade him goodbye with apprehensive minds. Not only that, they went to Mathur Babu and took him to task and scolded him right and left. They were about to beat him. What have you done? We were about to commit the worst of the sins in our life. Already we are sinners. And we would have committed such a bad sin to such a great person. So they were about to beat Mathur Babu when he was the person who gave money to them and asked them to do these things. So that was the purity, that was the state of mind, that was the character, well established, the perfect character, the Sita Pragna Lakshana, which Bhagavan Krishna is telling, can be seen. Yes, it is true. It is not just figure of speech. It is not just some high sounding words. It can be a reality in human being. And Ramakrishna showed that anybody can come to that level, raise your mind to that purity. So that is why the Avatara has come. That is the reason why Avatara, the Lord takes the human body to show us the ideal. He will show it in perfection at the highest level, at the ideal level. Yeah, we may not be so so powerful. We may not be so perfect, but we should try for perfection. So this should be the model. Ramakrishna should be the role model for us, ideal. So that's why when we are taking him as our Ishtadevata, that means all these good character. As Ramakrishna himself used to tell, what will happen if you meditate on God? So when somebody told, yeah, we think you, they asked Ramakrishna, we look at you as the Avatara and we meditate on your form. So what are we going to get by that? Ramakrishna replied, just like the property of the father or the parents, by default, by becoming the children of that father and mother, by default, automatically the property of theirs will flow to the children by default. Likewise, if you meditate on me, all my spiritual property will flow to you. These were the words of Master, you should remember. What will happen? So the spiritual property, all the property of Sri Ramakrishna, is Lord Narayana himself, Vishnu, Gadadhar Vishnu, the highest living being, the highest being. So if we meditate on him, Ramakrishna himself was told, just like the property of the father and mother will automatically flow down to the child. Likewise, all the property of mine will flow down to the person who meditates on me. So what is the property of Sri Ramakrishna? It is more costly and valuable than any other diamonds and nuggets and gold, any costliest gem or rubies. It is the spiritual property, so which he has, and which is very, very rarely available outside in the world. So if you meditate on God or goddesses, if you meditate on Sri Ramakrishna, all those beautiful character will flow to us. So what are we doing? In the Krishna Janmashtami week, in the evening, we are thinking of Lord Krishna, his sports, his Leela. So all that beautiful character, that Tyaga, the renunciation of Sri Krishna will come to us. If you think of Rama, those great natures of Sri Ramachandra will come to us. Now all these beautiful character and qualities of Sri Ramakrishna will start sinking in. We will come to our personality. When you think, when you read, this is meditation, isn't it? Getting up early in the morning in this cold winter. In other part of the country, I do not know what is the timings, but whatever it might be, giving up all the other things, you are thinking of all this good nature. So what is the benefit? It is meditation on the pure aspect of the Lord and all that property, the highest spiritual property, without your knowledge, by default, is now sinking into you, is now flowing into you, even without your knowledge. That's why Holy Mother tells, now how should we know that we are progressing forward in spiritual life? We do not understand anything from the exterior, from the external appearance, and we can feel we are doing so much of sadhana, japa, tapa, meditation, bhajans, satsang. We are hearing, reading from so many other scriptures, things about the Lord. what is happening? We don't feel there is any change. You know what was the reply of mother? My dear child, suppose you are sleeping. So somebody comes, take you along with the cot and put you into a vehicle and go on speeding the vehicle. When you wake up, you will have already traveled thousands of kilometers. When you get up, you see that you have gone to, you are sleeping. So they take along with the bed into a vehicle, fast moving, soft vehicle, and that vehicle traveled with such great speed, and the road is also so good. By the time you woke up, you were in Durban. When you slept, you were in Johannesburg. But when you woke up, you are in Durban. So, did you know anything what had happened in your sleep? Likewise, when you are moving forward in spiritual life, when you are doing all these satsangs, bhajans, singing, karma yoga, reading of the scriptures, hearing of all these great things, participating in the festival like this, 1 week of Krishna Janmashtami, immersing yourself in the thought of the Lord, and during Ramanavami, during Durga Puja, now every day, every in the week in this pandemic, almost 4 days in a week, we are thinking on the beautiful aspect of Sri Ramakrishna. You may think, what is happening to us? You do not know. In the exterior, you will not understand. But Mother is telling, what is happening inside, you do not know. The aspects, the beautiful aspect, the property of the Lord is flowing into you. Just like when you are taken in the vehicle to a long time, when you are in sleep, you can't understand. You have traveled so many thousands of kilometers, how much you have progressed in spiritual life, how much quickly you are just rushing towards God, how quick progress you are having in spiritual life. You cannot understand because you're in this waking state of this world, this dream state. Though we are in the waking state, we are in a different world. How much you have progressed in spiritual life, you cannot understand, fathom. So the property of Sri Ramakrishna, because early in the morning we are getting up and thinking and meditating, and the whole week, the whole day will be in that thought. How much it is sinking into us, how much we are inundated in those thoughts, in that floods of purity and that spiritual life, we can't understand. So now you can get all these things. You can find that the scriptures are true. What Sri Krishna has told, what the rishis in the Vedas have told is true. You get more faith in the religious thing of our life. See, the Hindus very fought silently without violence for 500 years, not 1 or 2 years. 500 years is the tapasya, perseverance. Sahanam sarvadukkanam apratikar purvakam chinta vilaparahitam satitiksha nigadyate. They went to the court of law. They didn't take arms and ammunition, kill the other people, but they went to the court of law. They waited and waited for 500 years, and they got the Ayodhya. And now the Bhumi Pujan was done by the great Prime Minister of India. And the Hindus waited for 500 years. Can you remember? The birthplace of Rama, to get it back. So much of sahana, so much of patience. Nobody is to be harmed. And now the beautiful birthplace will come back after 500 years. Can you imagine? So that is Hinduism. That is our Sanatana Dharma. That is the religion with which Ramakrishna has come to create faith that it is all true. So now we shall go forward to study more deeply into the aspect of Sri Ramakrishna's life. Now, the next chapter here in the life of Sri Ramakrishna in this 4 years of sadhana, or the 12 years, total 12 years, but the first 4 years of sadhana we are looking into. In that, we are coming into a new chapter that is, you'll be feeling very, what do you call, surprised in the sadhana, the 12 years of sadhana. How could this come? And what is that? Marriage and return to Dakshineshwar. So in these 12 years of sadhana, in the first 4 years of sadhana, during this period, Ramakrishna had his marriage. So Ramakrishna also took the married life as a sadhana too. So he was an ideal married man. He was an ideal husband too. The Lord has come down to this earth not only to set an example and an ideal for just the sannyasins or some saints, but to all aspect of life, to all people. Nobody is left alone. So he's setting ideal to every one of us, every living being. So that's why you can see in these 12 years of sadhana, or first 4 years of sadhana, marriage is also a sadhana to Ramakrishna. That's why he accepted to marriage. Marriage and return to Dakshineshwar is the next chapter. Let us see what is happening in the life of Sri Ramakrishna at this juncture. At Kamapukur, the master's mother and brother were very much worried on hearing the news that he had given up priestly duties. Scarcely had 2 years elapsed since Ram Kumar's, the elder brother's passing away, when Chandramani Devi, the master's mother, and his second brother Rameshwar came to know, to their utter dismay, that he was suffering from insanity. Now, people start telling so many things. They can't understand the high state. Only the gurus, the saints, the sages, the rishis, the monks who used to come to Dakshineshwar could understand what a great man he was. Because the jeweler, the expert in the gems and diamonds and precious stones, only he can understand, fathom the value of a valuable stone. Other ordinary people will think that is the ordinary stone and may use it for scrubbing their feet, or use it, they may put it to the foundation stone of their house, or they may even put it to some other toilet to build the toilet, because they do not know the value. Only people who know the value, just like the diamond merchant or the person who deals with the precious stones, he can understand it, the jeweler. Likewise, the monks, the saints, the rishis used to come to Dakshineshwar, that people like Vaishnav Charana, the other people who were great sadhakas themselves, who had gone forward with great difficulty in spiritual life, they could understand, they could fathom the depth of the spiritual life which Sri Ramakrishna had gone to. But other common people who are in the world, they can only think that there is some problem, there is some health issue, and they are making arrangement for that treatment. So that is the same thing here too in Ramakrishna's case. So because they can't understand what is happening in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, what is Sri Ramakrishna up to, how intensely, how fast, how with dexterity he is moving forward in spiritual life. He has nothing other than God and God alone. So just want to bring you to another incident when some person came to Sri Ramakrishna and asked directly, "Oh sir, Mahashai, people tell that you are insane. Is it true?" What would be the reply of Sri Ramakrishna? Ramakrishna told, "Yes, I am mad. I am insane. How? Some people So Ramakrishna replied, some people are mad after women. Some people are mad for men. Some people are mad for money. Some people are mad for properties, to have vehicles, to have special dress. Some people for food. Their whole life is just eating food, varieties of food, going to different places to eat food. Some people are mad for alcohol, for drugs. Some people are mad for name and fame. Some people mad for their children. Some people are mad in so many other things. Everyone is mad. Recently, I had a news or message from India and Bangalore. There was one person who's collecting, he's a breeder of dogs. So he's collecting dogs from different parts of the world. That is his hobby. So he had purchased and he had given a video recording to the people. It is now very viral. So the cost of the dog, Tibetan lion mastiff, it is just like a lion, the dog. So that was something like mm, 9 million or something. The cost of that one dog is 9 million. In Indian, this thing, it is just like 18 crores. It given 18 crores of rupees to purchase that one dog and is breeding, and to get a match to that another that mastiff with same amount he bought it. It is a vast collection of such dogs, and he is a breeder and he does business in that. So his passion, his madness, it took is to collect dogs. He's mad after dogs. So like that, you can see the madness. Everyone is mad. Sri Ramakrishna is telling, but they are mad for different things. Mad for man, mad for women, mad for enjoyment, mad for alcohol, mad for drugs, mad for so many other things in this world. Varieties and peculiarities will be there. When they are mad, when they are passionate about that thing, all people will think it is all normal. Yeah, they're very good. They're very sane according to them. But they are mad after all these things, and they are very sane because he is also like me. One sheep falls to the ditch and everybody falls to the ditch. You are very happy. Even if he gives the 100 crores of rupees to one dog, oh, what a great man. What? You'll be very happy. He's the sanest person on this earth. But when you think of God, when you want to go to God, giving up all these things, oh, he's a mad guy. So Ramakrishna himself is telling, yes, all are mad in this world. Some are mad for that, some are mad for this. But my only madness is for God. My madness is for God. That's all. That's the only difference. Everybody in this world is mad. Just go and analyze your life. What madness we have. The madness of the ego, madness of the position, the madness of the power. Mada, it's called in Sanskrit, Mada. Mada. So the madness is there in everybody. Everyone is mad of these worldly things. But Ramakrishna tells, I'm also mad. Yeah, I'm mad, I'm insane, but I'm only mad of the God. My only madness is for God. That's all. So nobody is sane in this world. Everybody is insane. So naturally, the people, when they get the news, you know that the wrong news travels very fast. The good news will not travel very fast. The wrong news travels very fast. So now people are seeing, is always Ramakrishna is immersed in God. So they thought he has gone mad, and the news spread and went here from Dakshineshwar, Calcutta, 120 kilometers, Kamarpukur. No mobile, no TV, no Facebook, no WhatsApp, no Twitter, no Telegram, nothing, no social media. But you can see how the wrong news travels very fast. It has already reached Kamarpukur, 120 miles away. The news has traveled from mouth to mouth, mouth to mouth. You can see it's just like a wildfire. People get joy. It's called Vishaya Sukha, Vishayananda. Just like there is Bhajanananda, singing the name of the Lord. There is the Gnanananda. So many other joys are there. The lowest joy is Vishaya Sukha, Vishayananda. They find joy in criticizing other, passing the news, different news of wrong news of other people, calumny, spreading the calumny, spreading bad news. It's very, very sweet to them. They enjoy it. Who is it? That person has done like this. This person ran away, it seems. So much joy they get in talking all those things. Just watch men and women grouping together of the same wavelength. They talk nothing else other than the bad character of other people. That's all. Paraninda, paracharcha. Just observe when you are standing with each other and talking. No other thing will be there. It is just other than paraninda and paracharcha. What is paraninda? Criticizing others. Paracharcha, just discussing things of others. Nothing useful. It is just paraninda and paracharcha. Calumny, spreading calumny, talking ill of others. So there is one small story which I want to share with you. So one person started telling, see, our neighbor, that person, he started vomiting 4 crows, it seems. Crows, 4 black crows he vomited. Then that person, is it, how could you vomit 4 crores? Let me go and inquire. He ran and went to that person directly and told, he said, did you vomit yesterday? I heard that you vomited 4 crores. 4 crores? Who told you? This person. He went to that person and asked, who told you that I vomited 4 crores? That next person. Who told you that I vomited 4? No, no, no. I heard it only 3 crores. So while I was exaggerating, while I was telling I wanted to make it more colorful, so I told 4 crores. Is it? Who told you? The 3 crores? You went to that. Oh, the other person, my neighbor, he told that you vomited 2 crores. I want to little add masala, some masala. So I made 3 crores. Is it? Who told you? They went to the other person. Did you tell that I vomited 2 crores? Yeah. The other person they came. He told me that you vomited 1 crore. So I wanted to add some masala, make it more little, recall, special. So I added 1 more crore. Who told you that 1 crore? They went to that person. So how did you find that I vomited 1 crore? No, no. The other neighbor told me that you vomited something object black like a crow. It was black in color like a crow. So I wanted to add little masala to make it more spicy. So I told he vomited crow. He said, who told you that you vomited something like a black like a crow? They went to him. Oh, that person told. So they went to that person and they told, oh, because I was wearing a black glass, when you were vomiting something, I saw it was black in color. So like that, if it went and went, he had just maybe after washing his face or something, toothpaste, and he threw out something, they thought the word spread and he has vomited crow. And by the time it reached the 100th person, it had become 4 crores. So this is the way we spread calumnies, we spread things against others, and we enjoy it. We get joy out of it. Sadistic joy. It is called sadism. Sadism in psychology, it's called a sadism. Who is a sadist? Who enjoys in the pain of others, in the trouble of others. So most of us, 90% or 99% are sadists. Why? The psychology tells the same thing. We enjoy in the trouble of others. Though we think that we are very decent people, but so much of joy in calumny, spreading things. Oh, that person ran away. Oh, this person, this happened, it seems. You know, do you know this happened? The other person will come running. What happened? What happened? So we are so eager to get that and spread it. So joy in calumniating and spreading bad things against others. So this now it has spread to Kamarpukur. It came to Kamarpukur also that Ramakrishna has gone insane. They can't understand that Ramakrishna is in a very high state, thinking of God, meditating on God, rushing very highly forward in a speedy way, in high velocity towards God. They can't understand it. And even if they see and understand, our nature is to spread calumny and wrong things only. Even if you know, even if you can understand that it's a good thing, we enjoy in spreading bad news. All of us, it is not they or he. It is in us, the nature in it. We have to overcome that nature. We should not have this Vishayananda. We should get into Bhajanananda. So now it has come to the ears of Rameshwar, the next brother after Ram Kumar, then Chandramani Devi, the mother. So they came to know to their utter dismay that he was suffering from insanity. Misfortunes never come single, one after another. Mishaps come from all sides and darken a man's life completely. This was exactly what happened to them. Gadadhar, whom Chandramani Devi had borne in her advanced age, was naturally very dear to her. Overwhelmed, therefore, with sorrow, she made arrangements for bringing a child back home. When he was with her, she noticed his indifference to the external world and his anxious longing, expressing itself in repeated and piteous cry of mother, ma, ma, mother, mother. She tried various means to remedy them, like administration of medicines, and performance of rites, so many other Havan, Puja, so many other things she tried to do, propitiating several gods and demigods. This was at the end of the year 1858. Now, the end of the year 1858, he has come to Kamarpukur. Mother Chandramani Devi made arrangement that her dear child Ramakrishna was brought back to Kamarpukur. So she is trying to do puja, havan, and so many other things to different gods and goddesses, demigods, and everybody in that place, going around to different temples, doing so many pujas for the welfare of her child, and also bringing in so many other different types of medicines, going to different doctors. You can just imagine how the parents, the mother and the father and brothers and sisters, when they have child with some disease or some disformity, how they rush here and there to treat their child, give them good treatment. Likewise, you can imagine how Chandramani Devi and all the other brothers of Ramakrishna were trying to give comfort to Ramakrishna, thinking that there is some disease in him. But it was not a disease, it was a different thing. So, remedy them like administration of medicine and performance of rite for propitiating several gods and demigods. This happened at the end of year 1858. Although after his return home, the master generally lived his normal life. He became sometimes overwhelmed with spiritual emotions. When his deportment and behavior became quite contrary to the normal, again he felt a great pain on account of burning sensation in his body. So Ramakrishna also started feeling great pain, a burning sensation in his body. Suppose now you love somebody. Let us think the normal conjugal love of the human beings. When the person gets separated from the beloved, so you will feel a lot of pain. It may express physically too, in the form of physical pain when there is separation. So here, the separation with the beloved, the highest, the God who is more nearer and dearer than your father and mother, than your own body, it is the nearest and the most highest thing which you have to love, that is God. And that divine dispassion, the discontentment, the separation from God. So that expressed in the form of burning sensation in the body of Sri Ramakrishna. So many other things, physical maladies started appearing because the divine separation. The mind was intensely wanting to merge with God. Just like in the worldly things, when you have this love established, how they suffer, they take, you can see the lovers, they're going to the extreme ends, even going against the parents, even when there is dangers, they will overcome dangers. They are ready to give up their life to. So much of pain they have to undergo. Then what would be the pain with the divine discontentment, even the highest, more than this ordinary love you can see in this world, the highest thing. So what would be the pain of separation from God when that mind is rushing towards God? That is happening in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Although after his return home, the master generally lived his normal life, he became sometimes overwhelmed with spiritual emotions. When his deportment and behavior became quite contrary to the normal, again he felt a great pain on account of the burning sensation in his body. Thus, on the one hand, he displayed his usual, simple, and amiable behavior towards all. His devotion to God and his mother and his love for his friends and on the others, they were evident in him from time to time an extraordinary or uncommon behavior pattern, an indifference to everything, an absence of shame, absence of aversion and fear, no fear at all, fearlessness, an exuberant eagerness for attaining a vague unknown object, and an obstinate effort to clear all obstacles from the path of his desired goal. These produced in the minds of the people a strange belief that he was possessed by a ghost. So why people started thinking when you used to see Ramakrishna? Yes, sometimes he was a regular normal boy in Kamarpukur, having good relationship with his friends and all the people of Kamarpukur. On one hand, he displayed Gadadhar or Ramakrishna at that time when he came back to Kamarpukur. He displays his usual, simple, and amiable behavior towards all. His behavior with everybody was very normal. His devotion to God and his mother and his love for his friends and other others, they were evident in him from time to time. Now, other than this, another thing was very, very importantly seen in Sri Ramakrishna. What is that? The extraordinary or uncommon behavior pattern, an indifference to everything, an absence of shame, the Ashtapasha's shame, lajja, aversion. So now I think I was asked the question about the shame, the lajja. It is to a beautiful character in mother. But here, Ramakrishna had that bondage removed. See, at the highest end, when you are going forward in spiritual life, when you have shame, then you cannot go out and do the sadhana, your whatever the desire, goal you want. The shame or that lajja will be a obstacle. So removal of that while you're going forward in a speedy way, in high velocity towards God. So this bondage cannot deter you. Otherwise, this bondage will make me, oh, how can I go out? What will people think about me? How can I think of God? What will they feel if I go to the God and do pranams? What will they feel? They may think that I'm unscientific, not modern, old age type. So they may think I'm a fool. So how can I go out? What can I do? So now isn't it an obstacle now? The lajja is not an obstacle. So Ramakrishna, now it's evident from time to time an extraordinary, uncommon behavior pattern, an indifference to everything, absence of lajja. Whatever he wants, mind will not keep quiet. No lajja at all. Go and get it. Want to realize God? Whatever might be the path. Should you wear a dress like Hanuman, have a tail like thing, live on the tree? Oh, what will the other people think about me? In the Dasya Bhava, when he's living like that, he will fall on the ground, think of God and rub his face and cry for mother. What will the other people think? What will the other people feel? Who bothers? No lajja. The bondage of lajja will not come. Let anybody think of anything of me. My only goal is to go towards God. Whatever I think my conscience tell is right, I will do it. The absence of lajja. Otherwise, oh, what will they do? What can I do? How can I go? How can I study? How can I go there? How can I finish my education? What will these people think? What will the world think of me? What will my father think of me? Lajja. So it's an obstacle. At the higher pace you are going. But at the lower other things, it is useful. Yes, at certain period it's useful. But here it's an obstacle, lajja. So absence of shame, aversion. Otherwise, you need aversion, something abominable or bad things. You have to feel averse and go away. But here, while moving forward on the spiritual life, you have to give up even that. And fear. Fear also is an obstacle. That also is given up now here. Absence of fear. An exuberant eagerness for attaining a vague unknown object and an obstinate effort to clear all obstacles. Whatever obstacles comes on the path, you just clear it. So an effort, extra obstinate effort to clear all obstacles from the path of his desired goal. That is absence of lajja. Obstinate effort to clear all obstacles from the path of the desired goal is absence of lajja. These produced in the minds of the people a strange belief that he was possessed by a ghost. That thought had crossed the mind of the simple-hearted Chandramani also. So thinking that a ghost is possessing her, possessing him. So this thought crossed even the mind of Chandramani also. Now when she heard others talking in the same strain, she resolved to call an exorcist. They will be present in India, everywhere, every nook and corner. So she resolved, and in the olden days it was more, to call an exorcist for the good of her son. The master used to say, one day an exorcist came, burnt a wick, sanctified by mantra, and made me smell it. He said, if it is a ghost and if it smells this aroma or this odor of this wick, sanctified by the mantra, it has to flee. It cannot stay there. But it was of no avail. It is not the ordinary ghost which has possessed Sri Ramakrishna. It is the highest ghost. That is Gadadhara Vishnu, the creator of this universe, the topmost ghost. That is the Gadadhara Vishnu, and the Lord Shiva is possessing Bhutanatha. The ghost of the ghost is possessing him. What will your ordinary exorcist and ordinary wicks will do? You smell the finest chemical and nothing is going to happen. The exorcist came, burnt a wick, sanctified by the mantra, and made me smell it. He said, if it is a ghost, it will flee. If it is a ghost. Then where is the question of fleeing? Ramakrishna himself has to flee. But it was of no avail. Afterwards, worship and other ceremonies were performed with the help of a few famous exorcists. And now one more thing was done. Mother called another exorcist who used to get possessed by one Chanda, a demigod. Chanda, fierce demigod, very fierce demigod. It's called Chanda. So this exorcist used to be a medium and invoke that Chanda on himself, and then he used to talk to the subject or people who are possessed, and the Chanda will, by his power, would remove that ghost. So now, Mother Chandramani Devi even called this person the exorcist who would be a medium to this Chanda. So a few famous exorcists and a Chanda was invoked. The Chanda, the demigod, the fierce demigod, accepted the worship and offerings, became pleased, and said to the exorcist, what happened? We will see tomorrow, because we have already closed the limit of our time. Just we have some 6 more minutes for 8 o'clock. So I will stop the conversation for now and give time for question and answer. So every day we are now preparing by thinking and by chanting Bhagavad Gita, by singing bhajans of Lord Krishna. So many mantras, pujas also. We have already completed 2 days of puja. Every day we are doing the Dashopachara puja service with 10 items. We are enjoying the puja to Sri Krishna by different mantras, his bija mantras and mula mantras of Sri Krishna. We are worshipping the instruments, the ornaments of Sri Krishna and the Avarana Devata, Anga Devata, all the people who are accompanying Sri Krishna. We are also doing the puja of Radhika Ma, Radha Devi. So it is all wonderful. So all can join that at 6 o'clock in the evening. We are doing that for about 1.5 hours. It is full of bliss and joy. So now, if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, you can clear it now.
Pranam Maharaj.
Yes, Madhu, please tell. Pronounce.
Maharaj, in today's satsang, we had Swami Vivekananda had this inquisitive. He used to doubt, even though master was his master also, but
No,
he still had some doubts.
Doubt, that word doubt is in the healthy sense. For the higher aspect, see, some people will have doubting nature itself. Doubt for just doubt's sake. It is not for higher going forward sake to learn. It is just doubting other nature. Our nature is to doubt everything. That is a negative approach. So doubting of Narendra was to go to higher aspect of life to understand the truth. So he used to doubt, scientifically understanding that. So that is logical and analytical mind. So now you can ask the question.
Once someone becomes your guru,
Hmm.
then the Indian scripture says, even if the guru says it's night, he has to accept the day as night as well. That should be the intensity of belief.
Yeah, that is
So-
the aspect of the from the side of the disciple. But Ramakrishna was such a great high order. He used to tell his all his disciple, you should not only test me in the daytime, but you should test also me in the night time. So you should test me, your guru, like a what do you call, the goldsmith tests the gold before taking it, buying it from the customer. He will put it into fire and test it nicely, and then only you accept me as a guru. So Narendra tested and tested, and finally, when he accepted, there was no turning back. Then he became the slave of his guru, and he did the work, all the work. He just what do you call, dedicated his life. He gave up his life in the pursuit of serving the guru. But before that, he tested nicely. And Ramakrishna was very encouraging all his disciples to test him.
But at the very end, I think the very last period of master, I think we at least my understanding is Vivekananda, when he was meditating, he was still thinking whether his avatar of Rama and Krishna. So he was having that thought in his mind. When he went back and saw Master said, "See, you still are, I think, having this question in your mind whether I am Rama Krishna." Or then he showed his body and they said, "I am Rama and Krishna in this life."
Not only that, he also gave him the vision of that. Not only he told by words, he also gave him, Ramakrishna, Vivekananda saw. He gave the vision also.
But why was that still at the last minute? Why was this thought in his mind, in Sri Vivekananda's mind?
Vivekananda was being trained in the Gnana Marga, the rationalistic path. So now he has to be an acharya of the world. In future, he will be the acharya. He will be teaching the world. He will be the world teacher. So for that, Ramakrishna was training Vivekananda in that pattern, in the scientific way. Emotionally, you cannot convince the whole world. The present world is the day of science. So most of the people now are highly educated and they will be undergoing the training of science. So the first thing is the skeptical thought, the doubtful things will come. So for them, Narendra has done all the testing, all the questioning and everything. And so that will be more, and his approach will be more uh, attracting to the present day people. After that, yes, they will come back, because this aspect of doubting and this analytical, this thing, everything, the emotional aspect, everything will be there in everybody's mind. But the dominant feature of this age, the scientific age, is always being skeptical and doubtful. So now for them, they need a teacher or a model. So when they see Narendra, he has already done the testing, then you can just close your eyes and accept him. So that's why Ramakrishna trained him in that path. But there were other disciples who were on the bhakti path, like Swami Brahmananda and other peoples. So they used to follow that. So it is all depending upon the nature of the disciple. So you see what is your path, whether it is bhakti, whether it is gnana marga, whether it is Raja Yoga, accordingly you accept it. So everything is not for everybody, because we are all of different nature and taste. So accordingly, the guru or the highest avatara has to set the ideal and example suitable for all, not just one type, to all the type. So everything you can see. So you can see that he even bought and kept a character like Haladari, will be always doubting. He is adapting scriptures. So everybody, he is being testing Ramakrishna, and every nature can accept him. Is ideal for everybody, not one particular path.
Okay, Maharaj.
Any other questions? because I missed the chanting of Ishavasya, some of our devotees have sent that Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyan jagat tena tyaktena bunjita ma gradaha kasya svit dhanam. Thank you so much. In the chat that has been printed, thank you. So no other question, no other doubts. So shall I wind up today's session by chanting the closing prayer? Okay. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshaha Sarvayagmeshwaro Harihi Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Prenite Prenitam Jagat Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Namaste. Thank you. Jai Ramakrishna. Om Namo Narayanaya. So let us all be immersed in the thought of Krishna always for this until the Krishna Janmashtami, even after that. So now it is going on. Everybody welcome to that meditation or Lord Krishna, Puja of Krishna in the evening.